With the start of spring training upon us, it's time to continue taking a good look at what the Dodgers have going on around the roster. So in episode 2 of this 4-part mini-series, we are going to dive into the Dodger outfield and the Dodger bench, combining them. But we're going to look at an overall unit that could be exceptional or fall apart in 2024. Get your Austin Barnes slander ready. It's time for another edition of the All Dodgers podcast. First, my name is Clint Pasillas. You can find me as Real FRG on the social media things. The links are in the description below. You can also find me at alldodgers.com. It's a new website that I hope you read because it'll make me feel all good and tingly inside. Also, while you're here, please give this video a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing to the channel. It's completely free. Hit that notification bell to be alerted whenever we go live, whenever we do cool things like what we're doing right now with this mini-series. So guys, if you missed part 1 of the series, I of course talked bullpen with Blake Harris of Thinking Blue with Blake Harris. And today, I welcome back my friend Jeff Snider from the Locked On Dodgers podcast, your first listen every morning, of course. And we've got a lot to talk about. So Jeff, welcome back. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good, Clint. Thanks for having me back. Always fun to talk Dodgers with you.
Love talking Dodger baseball with this guy. One of the, we'll call him a brilliant mind because, you know what, it's the truth. I tell you that. But like I said in the intro of this video, today we are talking. It's an oddball one. It's a combo. We're talking Dodgers outfield and bench, and I figured one of my favorite oddball combos because this guy could talk baseball in his sleep. So I decided to combine them and how things stand with this team heading into spring training. Of course, the Dodgers, they got an outfield boost this winter. They picked up a full-time left fielder and Teoscar Hernandez that added some pop with him as well. They cleared a path to a more permanent role for Jason Hayward by moving Mookie Betts to second base full-time. They also brought in speedster Manuel Margot, much to the chagrin of some, to platoon with Jay Hay and right. So these moves, they have an impact on the bench. We know that. You know, Chris Taylor isn't your starting left fielder like he was projected to be. More on the bench in a little bit. But first, I'll leave it real blanket statement for you. What do you like about the construction of this outfield heading into spring training?
You know, I'm excited about James Outman, his sophomore season. I feel like he got the sophomore slump out of the way during his rookie season. Hopefully the bounce back he had late last season can continue because I do think Outman has a lot of potential to turn into a real star in the league. And then left field Teoscar Hernandez, probably that for real. It's like we know who the 4 outfielders are. The only real question for me is who plays where, because Teoscar Hernandez and Jason Hayward have both always been right fielders. Or not always, but mostly been right fielders, both most comfortable in right field. We've gotten, you know, when they signed Teoscar Hernandez, I think it was Brandon Gomes, could have been Andrew Friedman. I think it was Brandon Gomes said that that Teoscar might play different positions depending on the pitching and whatnot. And so, you know, maybe that means that when Hayward is in the game, meaning a right-handed starter on the mound, Teoscar is in left field. And when Margot is playing, then Teoscar's in right and Margot is in left. You know, and maybe they're thinking about that. I would guess that by pretty early in the season, they're kind of just going to settle and say, okay, this is what we're doing. And, you know, I could see it going either way because Teoscar is best in right field, has a good arm. Hayward can probably be pretty darn good in left field. And so, you know, maybe one way or the other, I think they're going to lock down the positions. But yeah, it's kind of odd going into spring training without really many questions in the outfield as far as who's going to play. Mm-hmm. And that's assuming they keep Margot on the roster. You know, there's still always a chance that they decide to go another route. But, you know, as of right now, it seems like things are pretty locked down in the outfield as far as who the 4 are. And then you do have Chris Taylor who can bounce out there when he needs to, kind of the 5th outfielder and the 6th fielder or whatever. But yeah, it's almost a little bit disconcerting how few questions there are for the outfield.
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much know the opening day roster already for both. Maybe not for Korea. I think the Korea one could be a little, I wouldn't call it haphazard, but we might not see every name we're going to see in the States on that Korea series roster. But getting back to what you're saying a little bit there about like some optionality, even Jay Hay playing some center field where he's been also very good in his career, and we've seen Outman play left. It's imperfect. You probably want to leave your young, potentially up and coming star center fielder in center field, but this is a team where everybody's saying they're all in to win it. They'll do whatever they need to win. So I would imagine we'll probably see more if we do see Hernandez in right, which I hadn't really considered that, and I appreciate you enlightening me on that one. If we do see Hernandez in right, it'll be the other part of the platoon of like Margot playing left field. But again, what does this team love? What does Dave Roberts love? Optionality. They love that word as well. Had a little bit more on Teo, as they call him. How do you think this guy fits in LA? Career playing in kind of smaller markets, or maybe not, the spotlight hasn't necessarily been on his teams in his career, but now big market, massive spotlight on this team. How does he respond?
I think he has the personality to be very, very popular in Los Angeles. I think that you think of guys like Yasiel Puig and Kike Hernandez and guys like that with those personalities. I think Teoscar has shown some of that personality throughout his career with the Blue Jays and then the Mariners. And I think we could see that come out in a big way, especially if he's playing well. I think he's a guy who it could just, build on itself. And the Dodgers have some understated guys. Freddie Freeman he's got a great personality, but it's not an exuberant personality necessarily,
Yeah.
Max Muncy probably has a personality. Chris Taylor could learn to develop one maybe. But Teoscar Hernandez is a guy who I think the Dodgers, I wouldn't say they need that attitude, but I do think he brings some fun to the team that I think will be a lot of fun. And I think the fans are going to really, really like him, especially when he's playing well. I do think he's going to strike out a lot, and Dodger fans, especially Dodger Twitter, may have some meltdowns over that. But he's also probably going to hit a lot of home runs. He's going to be fun, and hopefully, I'm hoping that his personality shines through, and that Dodger fans love him, and maybe that even helps him get through some slumps a little bit better.
Hey, you need some spark, you need some fire, you need some caliente in the lineup, and whether he's batting fourth or fifth or sixth or whatever it is, I think one of the good things about this dude is there's not a lot of expectation on him. It's just go out there and be the guy you've always been in your career since kind of becoming a full-time, a regular in the big league. So, it's a really good point of the adding the spice and the flair that this team needs. And it's not the Kike Hernandez type where it's somebody dancing and shaking their hips and striking out and popping up. And to be fair, he had a decent year when coming back last year, but a different Hernandez this year. I will ask you about Kike again in a little bit, but first I wanted to talk jump back real quick, outfield construction. What happens, or where can things go wrong?
I mean, the answer is always injury, right? Like, you mentioned the possibility of Jason Hayward playing some center field. I'll go on record and say I don't want Jason Hayward in center field, because for me, the only time that's the best option is if James Outman is hurt. And I don't want James Outman to be hurt. I don't think there's any reason to have Hayward playing the outfield when Outman is healthy. And really that is the concern, is health. And, you've got a little bit with Chris Taylor as that fifth outfielder. You do have probably a little bit more outfield depth than a lot of teams do. You also have Andy Pages in the minors, who I think, I'm a little bit optimistic about Andy Pages, and if necessary, in the case of an injury, I think he could come up and he could do a decent job. I don't think it would be like what we saw in whatever year it was, 2020, when we just had outfielder after outfielder come up and say, hey, I can't hit either. That's I think Pages could do better than that. But yeah, I think injury is the big concern because you do have Hayward is not a young man anymore. He's in excellent shape, but he could get hurt. And that throws a quick wrench because if Manuel Margot becomes an everyday outfielder, that doesn't look like such a good thing anymore. Margot against lefties, that's only a third of the time. I'm totally on board with that. But Margot as the everyday left fielder or right fielder doesn't really thrill me very much. And you know, you could name any of the outfielders. You get hurt, that puts a cramp on things because ultimately, if somebody gets hurt, that either means Margot and or Chris Taylor are playing the outfield every day. And you know, Taylor could be okay if he remembers how to hit. And fingers crossed, I hope he does. I love Chris Taylor, but it does. You know, the depth isn't super there in the minor league system. So I think they would feel it if there's injuries in the outfield.
Yeah, on Chris Taylor, I think the last time you came on the channel, we talked a little bit about who was then the projected starting left fielder in Taylor, and me kind of getting angry at the idea that they would go out and sign Shohei Ohtani and then have this guy be their everyday left fielder. But again, he's a nice Band-Aid to have around. Let's go worst case scenario. Somebody stumbles. We see another Miguel Vargas type of situation where maybe Outman is just outright bad, or there is a major injury to a couple of guys out there. Do you think this team, after going all in on the Mookie Betts is now our second baseman, Mookie being thrilled about the idea of being the everyday second baseman, do you think they'd pull that ripcord and move him back into the outfield in an emergency, like almost full-time-ish?
I think it's definitely an option. Although, you mentioned Miguel Vargas. I think Miguel Vargas is an option to play left field. You know, if something happens, I think at this point they'd probably rather have Vargas in left field than Vargas at second base and Mookie in right field, defensively and offensively, and just Mookie's healthily. I think that Miguel Vargas is one of those backup plans. There's not really room for him on the opening day roster. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised to see him on the roster in Korea. I wouldn't be surprised to see him and Pages on the roster in Korea, since you only need 2 starting pitchers for that series. I think I don't know that they would pull the plug on anybody very quickly for ineffectiveness. I think James Outman would have to be pretty bad for at least 3 months before they thought about pulling the plug. And I don't really see that happening, because he hit righties really well last year and he hit lefties okay. He didn't have any power against lefties, but his strikeout rate was roughly almost exactly the same against lefties as it was against righties. That gives me hope that he's going to end up being a decent hitter against lefties. And, that means he's an everyday outfielder. And so, I don't really foresee huge struggles enough to the point where they would consider Mookie going to the outfield. The only reason I could see Mookie going to the outfield is if multiple people got injured, and then maybe they consider it.
Yeah, when you look at that lower level depth, like if you get beyond the 40 man, it does get a little questionable for this team. But I think the front office has done an incredible job, kind of plotting or getting some sort of contingency plan in place for just about every worst case scenario out there. A fun one, we'll say, here with this one earlier in the offseason, as I kind of shift gears slightly. Early in the offseason, we were told that maybe, just maybe, Shohei Ohtani could play some outfield in September if everything goes well with his rehab. In your opinion, how much of a reality do you think that is?
All right, let me put it this way. Clint, how much chance is there that you and I are going to run the Boston Marathon this year?
I would put that about a slim 2-0.
Yeah, I think that's more likely than Shohei Ohtani playing the outfield for the Dodgers this year.
Okay.
In fact, let's put it, you and me tying for first place in the Boston Marathon is more likely than Shohei Ohtani playing the outfield for the Dodgers this year. I love that Dave Roberts threw it out there, gave us stuff to talk about on our various podcasts, but there's no way in the world that they're going to risk the next 9 years of Shohei the pitcher. They would rather have Andy Pages and some guy you've never heard of who isn't even yet in the organization yet starting in the outfield than risk Shohei Ohtani's arm playing the outfield this year.
Could have said no, but okay. No, all right, that's fair. That's fair. Some people are going to be upset about that because people will be like, "Oh, I want to see Shohei and left or whatever." But
tell them to stop doubting us and our Boston Marathon dreams. Then
this is fair. You know what?
Tell them it's on them.
Today I start training, or maybe not. It's late right now.
Late, man.
I'll put it off.
Sometime in the next few weeks, I'm going to think about starting to train.
Yeah, there we go. I'll put it on the big time vision board. Let's shift gears out of the outfield, but also still partially in the outfield because some of those outfielder options will be on the bench. We already mentioned Chris Taylor. Whoever's not starting between Hayward and Margot will be on the bench. Miguel Rojas gets to slide into that role that the Dodgers initially acquired him for. Austin Barnes still exists, much to the chagrin of way too many people online. Is this a good bench?
I think so. I think they have kind of everything covered that you want on the bench. You've got your platoon outfielder, you've got your defensive whiz infielder, you've got your Chris Army knife, you've got your backup catcher. Other than backup catcher, and yeah, Hunter Fiducia should probably be the backup catcher, but we can all understand the reasons why he's not going to be unless Austin Barnes gets hurt. Mm-hmm. But yeah, when you look at what they have and what they need, it's a pretty solid bench. And it's kind of exactly, there's nobody on the bench other than the backup catcher who, if he has to come up in a pinch hitting spot late in a game, you're thinking, oh crap, it's this guy. There's no Jeff Hamilton on this team. Was Jeff Hamilton bad? I always liked him because his name was Jeff, but I assume he was pretty bad. It's a solid bench, I think.
Are you? Would you? And I apologize, I'm not an ardent daily listener of Locked On because I don't listen.
Hey, I gotta go. Sorry about.
Are you a? Where would you align yourself in the Austin Barnes? I guess we'll call it ethos. Are you pro? Are you real? Middling? Are you ardently against? As I go ardent twice. Where are you on Barnes?
I really like Austin Barnes in all the non-baseball player ways. And I think at this point in Austin Barnes' career, he provides exactly as much value on the 60-day injured list because of a knee injury as he does on the active roster. And I'm not wishing a knee injury on Austin Barnes. I'm wishing Austin Barnes would fake a knee injury, keep getting paid, keep staying on the bench, keep going to the catcher's meetings, mentor Hunter Fiducia, be the leader in the clubhouse, all that stuff that you are, and just, collect your paycheck. Don't worry about playing. Don't even own cleats anymore, wear comfortable shoes, Austin, and just put on the uniform every day and be everything you are, except the backup catcher. And, I don't think that's realistic, but in my perfect world, that's what Austin Barnes would be.
So you'd rather see just a coach, not a player coach, like he's sort of assumed the role. I'm starting to feel like alone in a corner as one of the Barnesy defenders online because this is a dude that's maybe going to start twice a week in a bad week. And it's like, how much damage is that guy who's going to hit 8th or 9th in your lineup 6 times max in a week? How much damage can he do? But then, like you mentioned, that pinch hitting spot, you're down to your last guy. Like, I could understand it. Yes, there are better options. We just saw this week, they identified a weak spot on the roster, somebody that we've known for a long time with Caleb Ferguson, sent him out. If you're trying to get your best possible roster, yeah, most likely somebody like a Fiducia is a potential improvement over somebody like Barnesy.
Yeah, and with Shohei Ohtani, there's no longer a DH spot for Will Smith. And so Smith may need more days off, especially as the dog days of summer roll on. There may be a week where Smith needs 3 days off or even 2 in a row. And I would rather have somebody with the better chance of hitting the baseball be the guy playing. And you know what? It was easier for me to swallow back when Barnes was a great defensive catcher. Barnes's framing isn't as good as it used to be.
Fair.
His arm is really, really bad. and Dodgers pitchers aren't great at holding runners to start with. And so just, yeah, like I get everything you're saying. And I do think the answer to how much harm can it do is probably not that much. But, if you are trying to optimize a roster, I think that is a clear spot where the roster is not optimized.
I'm just going to make it a mission for myself. One of these days, I will find somebody that will defend Barnes the way I do on here. And it's funny, I've never been a big time, and I'm not even saying you're hating on Barnes. I just want, this is more, I guess, for me. I could even cut this part. I just want to find somebody that has something exceptionally positive to say about him, and I fully agree with everything you say. You have just said right now. The final one I'll throw at you, and I said I was going to bring him back up because I mentioned Kike. I got a comment on a show a couple weeks ago. Somebody said, bring back Kike and let him catch. There's your replacement for Austin Barnes. I know how much people want Kike Hernandez back on this team. You and I both know, looking at the roster right now, it's not much of a reality, but I just need you to give a different opinion of why that's not a reality to maybe some of the newer folks that are following this fun journey entering spring training.
Yeah, ultimately, if you're going with Kike Hernandez, he's taking the roster spot of either Miguel Rojas, Chris Taylor, or Manuel Margot. And because of the Dodgers, all their defensive flexibility, it could be any of those three guys. Mm-hmm. But when you look at what Kike brings to the table, Taylor is better defensively than Kike at most of the positions that they both play. Kike used to be better defensively in the infield than he is now, I think. Taylor is definitely a better defensive outfielder and probably a better defensive infielder. And so it doesn't make sense to boot Taylor. Rojas is clearly a better defender, doesn't have the positional flexibility, only plays the infield. But like we said, they kind of have the outfield covered with Taylor. And so really it comes down to Manuel Margot. And so, I wouldn't hate it if they re-signed Kike and traded Margot for somebody. Kike being the right-handed half of that right field platoon isn't terrible. And having, a little bit more of that defensive flexibility where against left-handed pitchers, if they want to put, that's the thing. If he's the right-handed half of the platoon, that's mostly going to be his playing time. And so you're not getting much of his flexibility there. For me, the only real reason that I would be more in favor of keeping Manuel Margot is that he's faster. Kike has always surprised me at how not fast he is. He seems like he should be faster than he is. And so Margot does provide more value as a pinch runner, which could come up. They don't have Adrian Gonzalez or Justin Turner or Yasmani Grandal anymore, who you definitely have to pinch run for. Mm-hmm. But, there are times when you would rather have, even if it's Will Smith or Max Muncy, who you are both fast for their situation, but not as fast as Manuel Margot. So maybe you want to use him as a pinch runner. Other than that, though, I feel like Kike and Margot are a little bit interchangeable in some ways. And so I wouldn't hate it, because I do love Kike. I wouldn't hate it if they brought him back instead of Margot, but I don't really see the point of going through a lot of roster contortions to get Kike back on the roster to replace somebody who's basically the same person.
Yeah. Yeah.
The same player, not the same person. Nobody's the same person as Kike.
Fair.
But, you're getting the same value out of Margot as you would out of Kike.
I like it. Well said. I said something less good, but along the same lines very recently as well. And again, I wanted somebody else to throw that opinion out here on my channel so people understand that we're both so smart. But
is that the tagline of your channel? Less good, but along the same lines as Lockdown Dodgers?
Yeah, I'll change it right now. Let me get into the back end of it. But Jeff, I appreciate the time, my guy. We covered all of the bases here that we needed to in the outfield and on the bench. I was thinking about it while I was nearing wrapping up here, and I was like, I really probably should have thrown Shohei into this part of it. But it's also, what are you going to add about Shohei? It's like he's going to be very good at hitting the baseball loud and far.
I think he's good. I'll say that. I think
Can I get you on
Shohei Ohtani's a
record?
good baseball
I'm going
player.
to quote that.
Oh, heck yeah, write it down.
Quote graphic going
Good
up, hyping.
good ball player in quotes, -- Jeff Snider, -- Michael Scott.
You guys heard it here first, folks. It's going to be.
I got a Shohei Ohtani bobblehead right back. Man, I can't.
This is riveting.
Yeah.
This will be great for the audio version.
There it is.
Where? From one of those FOCO ones? Some
No,
rando?
it's from the Angels last year.
Oh, I forgot about the Angels.
That red one back there behind my shoulder.
Well, we'll send you some blue paint and white Dodger script, and you can throw it on there.
Hey, they're doing two Ohtani bobbleheads this year, so why don't you just go and get me one, okay? And send it to me.
Yeah, I just did a live stream where people were sending me super chats to go to games, so I'll have to pay for the the Shohei, one of the Shohei bobbleheads. I'll do my best.
Bad idea.
I'll do my best for you, but you guys got to do more lives. I'm telling you.
Yeah, we can't bring ourselves to do the super chats yet. I don't know why. It's like I don't know, but
it's a real
one of the ways I'm not as evolved as you, Clint.
One of these days, you'll be a real piece of work like I am. But again, I appreciate the time. Mr. Jeff, tell the people who don't know about you where to find you and how to hear you 5 days a week.
Locked On Dodgers, we do it 5 days a week. It's about a half hour. It's designed to be roughly the length of your commute. And, you can get it on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. It's a lot of fun. It's me and Vince Samperio talking Dodgers 5 days a week. So check it out.
And good thing about Vince is he's your boots on the ground. Whenever you can't make it to events, he's at most of them, covering with BR walk-off or whatever it is. But all the links,
one of them day jobs that gets him media access, so that's nice.
What do those get you? But all the links that Jeff just mentioned will be down in the description. And again, Jeff, appreciate the time, and I'll catch you on another one of these soon.
Anytime, man.
Always a good time with my guy, Jeff Snider. Again, like he said, go follow him. Listen to him and Vince every day, just about every day on the Locked On Dodgers podcast. But now's the part of the show where I ask you guys your thoughts about this Dodgers outfield. Do you like the potential starting 3, 3.5, 4, whatever you want to call it? Do you like Teoscar Hernandez, James Outman, and Jason Hayward? Do you think Outman survives an entire season as the starting center fielder? Will Teoscar Hernandez go off in Dodger blue, and will they find a way to somehow mix Kik Hernandez in there? Because we were just talking about it. Probably not going to happen, but share your thoughts down in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing. Hit that thumbs up button on your way out. Everything you do is completely free, I promise you, and it really helps out the channel. I, again, am Real FRG on the Twitter, on the, X as they call it, on the Instagram. Those links are in the description below, and I will see you on the next one.